Make sure we're on here. There we go. Zay, you're flying solo tonight. All right. Appreciate you doing it for us. Thank you, sir. We're going to begin reading with verse 1 in just a moment. Let's talk 2 or 3 announcements at the beginning, and then if you'll help me pass them on to the folks at the end, and we'll have our prayer request time at the end as well. We want to remember all the upcoming events that's happening, the sign-ups that are behind me. Ladies, if you haven't signed up for the ladies' night, if you want to do that. And then we're going to tomorrow open it up for others to join with us. So go ahead and get signed up if you would. That's May 4th. Meal at 5 o'clock. Worship at 6 o'clock. And I understand you're going to hear a great testimony. And I know the worship's going to be special as well. So it'll be a great night for the ladies. This coming Sunday, Easter, we're excited about it. We had an Easter service this past Sunday, and it was a great, great day. But also, we're going to do something special this coming Sunday after we conclude here. We're going to dismiss and make our way back out to the playground area, and there's going to be, I guess you would call it a unveiling of a plaque out there in Brother Jerry Wayne's honor and memory. His family's going to be here. His sisters are going to be here. It won't take a long time or anything like that, so don't worry about time factors or anything. But we'll dismiss here and then reconvene probably in about, we'll just say 10 minutes out there probably after we dismiss here. And it'll be a short time out there, but it'll be a special time out there. So be mindful of that. Other announcements. Help me. Anything upcoming that you want to make mention of? Baby dedication is Mother's Day. Mother's Day, yes, ma'am. Might just remind you, if you're an early riser at 6 o'clock, Conrad will be preaching for the Holy Week service this coming Sunday. So I'm looking forward to that. Been around a couple of young pastors, and they were moaning and groaning about the time and all that stuff. And I guess when you get older, you don't moan and groan about the 4 o'clock. You moan and groan about the late hour night, probably. But just be in prayer for Conrad. I know it's a special opportunity, and I'm thankful he has that opportunity to pray for him as he brings the message Sunday morning, 6 o'clock at the Presbyterian Church. So, anything else? All right, let's go to Joshua, chapter 6. Last week we concluded chapter 15 with the words, "And Joshua did so." And that was somewhat powerful words when we looked at them from the standpoint of what it meant for Joshua, but also what it means for us. So we're going to begin reading verse 1. I think I gave the guys all the way through verse 20. That was very optimistic, I think. So we'll stop probably before we get to verse 20 for the sake of time, and then we'll come back and start looking at them verse by verse as we do. But we begin with verse 1, chapter 6. Before we do that, Kelvin, would you pray for us, please, and ask the Lord's blessings upon our time together? Amen. Amen. Thank you, brother. Verse 1. Now Jericho was securely shut up because of the children of Israel. None went out and none came in. And the Lord said to Joshua, "See, I have given Jericho into your hands, its king and the mighty men of valor. You shall march around the city, all you men of war. You shall go around the city once. This you shall do 6 days. And 7 priests shall bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark. But the 7th day you shall march around the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow the trumpets. And it shall come to pass when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when you hear the sound of the trumpet, and all the people shout with a great shout, the wall of the city will fall down flat, and the people shall go up, every man straight before him. Then Joshua the son of Nun called the priests and said to them, Take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horn before the ark of the Lord. And he said to the people, Proceed, and march around the city, and let him who is armed advance before the ark of the Lord. So it was when Joshua had spoken to the people that the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horn before the Lord advanced and blew the trumpets, and the ark of the covenant of the Lord followed them. The armed men went before the priest who blew the trumpets, and the rear guard came after the ark while the priest continued blowing the trumpets. Now Joshua had commanded the people, saying, You shall not shout or make any noise with your voice, nor shall a word proceed out of your mouth until the day I say to you, Shout, then you shall shout. So he had the ark of the Lord circle the city, going around it once. Then they came into the camp, lodged in the camp. And Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord. The 7 priests bearing 7 trumpets of ram's horn before the ark of the Lord went on continually and blew with the trumpets. But the armed men went before them, but the rear guard came after the ark of the Lord, while the priests continued blowing the trumpets. Let me just continue on. And the second day they marched around the city once and returned to the camp. So they did how many days? 6 days. But it came to pass on the 7th day that they rose early. They had a sunrise service. As the day began to dawn, they had a sunrise service about the dawning of the day, and marched around the city 7 times in the same manner. On that day only they marched around the city 7 times. And the 7th time it happened when the priests blew the trumpets, and Joshua said to the people, Shout, for the Lord has given you this city. Now the city shall be doomed by the Lord to destruction, it and all who are in it. But only who? Who would be the person? Rahab, and we've talked about that, right? Pretty extensively about Rahab. Only Rahab the harlot shall live, she and all who were within her house, because she hid the messengers. What was she told to do? What was her instructions so that they would know? That's right. That's right. That's right. The scarlet, that's exactly right. Scarlet thread, scarlet robe, we call it, rope. And had to hang it out the window, remember? That's exactly right. And all who were behind it were safe, right? Okay. Because she hid the messengers that we sent. And you, by all means, abstain from the accursed thing. That'll be important in the next couple of weeks. Lest you become accursed when you take of the accursed things and make the camp of Israel accursed and trouble it. But of all the silver and gold and vessels of bronze and iron are consecrated to the Lord, they shall come into the treasury of the Lord. We'll conclude with verse 20. So the people shouted when the priest blew the trumpets, and heard the sound of the trumpet, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat. Then the people went up in the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city. All right, kind of interesting. So we conclude chapter 15, and Joshua did so, and we find that becoming reality also in chapter 6. Begins with verse 1, tells us a little bit about Jericho. It was shut up tight. Why was it shut up tight? They were on red alert, right? They knew what was coming. They'd already heard. Rahab had explained that pretty well. Remember in her testimony, right? How, hey, we know what God's done. We know what's happened. We've heard about it. We know what He's been doing. So no doubt word spread, and very quickly they knew, hey, red alert time. And it was about to come down. Shut up because the children of Israel, none went in and none came out. So they've got it tied as a drum. They've got it secure as they can. And then verse 2, we begin to see the instructions that were given to Joshua. Let's talk about Jericho just a little bit. March around Jericho. You know, you think of a city, you think maybe a big town, big city, that type of thing. Walk around Jericho probably took, they would guesstimate, probably took between 20 and 30 minutes to walk around it. So, you know, it was not that large from the standpoint of a massive area, but it was a strategic area. And Joshua realized that. This was kind of the first hurdle that they had to cross. This is the first opposition, really, that they're going to have to face, and they're prepared to do that. But God's given instructions, which was not in the military manual that Joshua had studied at West Point or Indianapolis or Colorado Springs. Are you following what I'm saying? It was not in the information book. It was not in the manual of war. Because now he's received something that, hey, was not like any military strategy that he'd ever encountered or that he'd ever used or ever heard of, for that matter. But how did chapter 5 end? Thank you, my brother. And Joshua did so. And that's going to be the theme of his life, the theme of his ministry, the theme of his leadership. And Joshua did so, as God had instructed him to do, even though it was not in the military manual. God said do it. So what's going to take priority and precedence? What God says. Joshua learned that early on, and he learned it from Moses. If we could get a hold of that and learn that early in our walk, we'd all be a whole lot better off. But hey, it took me a while, I don't know about you, to get to that place where you can truly, and Joshua did so. You don't have to be able to explain it. You don't have to even be able to understand it. But there's times when you just have to do what God tells you to do, right? And that's what Joshua is doing. Because there's a lot of times in life when we do not understand. And we can't explain situations and circumstances and way things are happening. But we know we have to have the faith. Okay? Again, let's back up just a little bit. Two things go together. In the life of Joshua, as God was giving him instructions, Joshua was receiving that, understanding that. Hey, trust and obedience. That's right. Trust and obedience. So, trusting God, obeying God. Trusting Him enough to obey Him. Even when you don't understand it, you can't explain it. And I want to tell you something. From a military mindset, Joshua would be having some problems with what's going down. But what happened? And what had transpired in his life to bring him to that place where, okay, that's what God says, let's do it. Trust. God had proven Himself time and time and time again, and Joshua had witnessed that and watched that. Is that not the testimony of our lives? Has God not proven Himself to you faithful in times? And when that faithfulness shines the brightest, it's during those difficult times, right? So Joshua had learned some of those life lessons, and I trust that we have as well. So he would trust and obey even when he didn't understand. And when this military plan seems absolutely outrageous, let's do it. Why? Because God said so. And Joshua then did so. So if we can follow that, hey, again, not very profound, but hey, God says so, we need to do so. And when we're instructed and God says it, we need to do it, right? Absolutely we do. The Lord gives instruction to Joshua. Verse 2 again, we see those instructions. The Lord said to Joshua, see, I have given Jericho into your hand, its kings, and the mighty men of valor. Why did it begin with S-E-E as it is in mine? I don't know what others might have. What do you have there? If you're reading from, I'm reading from New King James. See? Okay. And you're in what? Okay. What else we got? C? And it's C in the NIV? Is it C exclamation? Just one word, C? C comma. All right. In New King James, it's C exclamation. Why do you think it's that? Bring attention to it. And I'm going to say something right along those same lines. Bring attention to it, but cause your attention to it. Cause your attention to it, and then brings your attention to it, and then you give attention to it. See. And then he follows, I have given Jericho into your hand, its king, and the mighty men of valor. So again, we see the emphasis upon God's giving the victory, right? It's a done deal. But Joshua still has to do his part. And his part this time is different from any other part. Remember, he's the dude down in the valley. Remember, when the other guys, go back in time, they're up on the mountain, remember, and Moses saying, remember that? Joshua's the dude down in the valley fighting. He's the guy down there in the midst of the conflict, the combat zone. And now he's prepared for another combat zone, and he's getting the strangest instructions he's ever heard in his life. Wow. But what's got? How did it end in chapter 15? And Joshua did so. Okay. I have given Jericho into your hand. The victory is yours. I have secured the victory. But you still, yes, you must fight the battles. Again, enough emphasis, verse 3 through 5. Again, a most unusual battle plan. One like Joshua has never studied or never seen or never been a part of. You shall march around the city, all you men of war. You shall go around the city once. This you shall do 6 days. Okay, so if you're in a hurry, you better slow down here, right? If you A-type driven personality, let's go get it. Hey, Joshua just got words from the Lord, and the word of the Lord said what? It ain't going to happen today. Forgive my grammar, but it ain't. It's not going to happen tomorrow. You got to do this for how many days? 6 days, right? You're going to do this one time around, 6 days type thing. So it becomes, listen to me, the first day, now picture the scene, and we're given detail of as how everything lines up here. But picture that scene, and okay, you do it one day. Probably fired up that first day. Second day, third day, fourth day, middle mile, so to speak, that third and fourth day, the Wednesday of life, so to speak. You know, you think anybody began to question, think anybody was mumbling back there in the parade line? If they were just like human nature, there were some mumblers probably. You think anybody was saying, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life? We've come this far. We got this army. They're scared of us anyway. They're locked up. They're afraid. They're fearful. Hey, somebody, let's storm this thing. Let's take them. You think that was going on? You think somebody was beginning to question Joshua maybe a little bit? Are you sure you heard from the right person on this, Joshua? Because that's the way we think, isn't it? Because it's strange to us. It's different. It's not what we're accustomed to. It's not the way that the battles have been fought before. And here we are marching around. I wonder if somebody said, you know, they're fearful of us, but when they see us just marching around, are they going to think we're scared of them? We have to do this thing, you know, it's day 4. Hey, I don't know. But I know how human nature works, don't you? Probably so. So they received their instructions, and when they received their instructions in verses 3 through 5, there's no but God. There's no but Lord. There's no, and I don't mean but God in a positive way, because there's a lot of places in the Scripture where but God is tremendously powerful words, tremendously powerful. But on this case, I'm speaking in terms of there's no questioning and objecting, or are we sure we're doing this right? There's no doubting. Perhaps there are some that are doubting. But in Joshua's mind, what? There's no doubt. Why? Because God instructed it. God said so. And he is going to be obedient. Faith has taught him that God is trustworthy. And he's going to be obedient to the Lord. So there's no, well, hey, we're going to pass on these instructions. So 7 priests, 7 ram's horn, trumpets, so forth and so on. We see the instructions that are given. And then we're told that there's going to be a loud blast. And a ram's horn is not something, and I am totally, music I know nothing about whatsoever, like a lot of things. But music would be right up here. I know absolutely nothing about it. But I know that the way the ram's horn was designed and made, hey, it had one note. And when you blast, it blasts one note. If it's short, it's a note. If it's long, it's the same note. A few years back, we did a ministry and did some Easter stuff. Matter of fact, it was during Easter. So on that particular Easter Sunday morning, we had literally a ram's horn, and we had a gentleman outside blasting that ram's horn. You should have seen people when they got out of their cars thinking, what in the world are they doing? Probably the same thing some of them said about Joshua, they were saying about me, he's crazy. But it makes one continual sound. So Okay, so that's kind of the scene. That kind of sets the scene. You've got armed men going before. So Joshua's all about that, right? Because you still see some military strategy in this, right? You've got armed soldiers going before, right? Leading the pack. Then you've got priests, the Ark of the Covenant. But then what do you have in the very back? What particular assignments back there? You've got the soldiers in front, the rear guard. See, Joshua's still, hey, we're going to do this like the Lord said, but again, you're thinking in terms of, okay, you've got your soldiers out front. Why do you have a rear guard? To guard the... Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. From the attack from behind. So they're still doing preparation. They're still doing their part. They're honoring God. They're being obedient to God. And as we think about that in terms of our walk with Christ, as we think about it in our spiritual journey, the battles that we fight, as we go against those powers of darkness, the rulers of darkness, the principalities and powers, you and I need to understand something. We can trust God, but God expects us to do our part. What's our part? Well, one thing He's done, He supplied a full armor for us, right? That we're to wear that full armor, that we're to take possession of that which God has given to us. That's in Ephesians chapter 6. God has provided with you with that armor. So who would want to go into a battle without their armor? Hey, we've got the armor of God. We've got the Spirit of God. We've got the sword of the Spirit. So they're prepared. They're ready. They're going to do their part, but they're honoring God. They're doing as God says, and they're obedient to Him in doing that. All right, 6 through 11. Again, you think anybody in that group ever said, hey, we've never done this before? We've never done it like this before. I've never seen this happen before. It's strange to me. Think any of that kind of murmuring going on? Do you? Hello? Yeah. Again, if you deal with people, right, you got to deal with some of that stuff. Is that the case now? To do something a little different? You got to do something a little off the way it's been, what has been determined as center, and you're off center in some people's mind. You know, and cannot, y'all, we get the strangest things in our mind about the way things have to be, just simply because they've been done that way before, and we put that down as it's written here somewhere. You know, it's got to be there somewhere. It's one of those books I haven't, you know, one of the Old Testament books probably, but I know it's in there somewhere. When that's not the case. So, all right. So let's look on. And it came to pass, I'm in verse 5, when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when you hear the sound of the trumpet, and all the people shall shout with a great shout. Now, here's one of the toughest things that they had to deal with, I have no doubt. What did Joshua tell the people for them to do? During those 6 days, 6 times around, what were they to do? They were to keep their... Yeah, that's putting it very plain. Yeah, and that, can you imagine that? Think about that. They were supposed to do that. And Joshua was very specific in the instructions that the Lord had given to him and that he passed on to the people. But on that 7th day, all the people shall shout with a great shout. Then the wall of the city will fall down flat, and the people shall go up, every man straight before him. I love the word flat. Why? Because you see what kind of God you have. You know, we all have favorite verses. One of mine, if you whatever you want to call it, some people call them life verses or whatever, but I think all these need to be life verses. But Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20 talks about what? The exceedingly abundant God. He's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us. That would be one of my top, if not top. Exceedingly abundantly able above God. What are you talking about, Brother Mick? I'm talking about this. See, there's times when you and I would be content with just knock me a hole in that wall. You follow me? Just knock me a hole in it. See, God doesn't just knock holes in it. Sometimes He brings it down flat. So instead of a hole, you picture a fort and get through the door, that type of thing, get through the gate or whatever. Do you know what God did on this? As He told him and gave him instructions, and the wall would fall down flat. So the entirety of the wall fell. So that wherever you were, all you had to do was what? Advance. Move forward. Didn't matter if you were at the back, the front, wherever you were around that wall, when that wall came down flat, all you had to do was advance. Can I ask you something real personal? You don't have to answer it out loud. But has God ever knocked the wall down flat for you? There been a time in your life when God, whatever that situation, and I hope you understand what I'm saying, where God blessed you with the wonderful knowledge, and not just the knowledge, but the reality of that He was an exceedingly abundantly able, above kind of God. He didn't just knock a little hole in the wall for you. He knocked the wall down flat. And that's what happened. Because that's the kind of God. So we see that wall, and we're going to see it as it happens, as it falls down flat. And again, I can't help but try to use my sanctified imagination occasionally. I wonder what the people on the inside thought, and I wonder what the people on the outside of the wall thought when it fell down flat. And again, we're not talking a wall this wide. You remember where Rahab's house was located? So we're talking, when God does something, He can do it big. And that's exactly what happened. So I can't emphasize to you enough. I know you're tired, and I know it's midweek and all that, but I hope you'll remember the times when God knocks it down flat for you. I hope you'll understand His grace and His love for you when He knocks the wall down flat. When other people think it's impossible, and God shows up. When other people think that it can't happen. But you know in your heart, God has told you from the standpoint of just trust me and obey me. And let my timing. May not come the second day, may not be the third day, may not be the fourth. In our case, it may not even be the seventh day. But He's worthy of our trust and our obedience. And then when He does, and I'll move on, goodness gracious time, this guy. When He knocks the wall down flat, don't miss it. Are y'all hearing me? Help me, church family. Are you hearing me? When God graces you and knocks the wall down flat, don't miss the blessing of Him doing that. What are you talking about, Pastor? I'm talking about when we are so caught up in the moment of He did it, that the doing of it becomes more important than who did it. There would not be, and again, forgive my grammar in English, but there would not be a doing of it had it not been for the doer of it. There was nothing magical in Joshua's voice. There was nothing magical in ram's horns being blown. But the point was this. He did it. So when God knocks your wall down flat and you have the victory and you experience the victory, don't forget who gave you the victory. He is always more important than the doing. Make sense? Hope it does. Okay. All right. Verses 12 through 16, if skipping on a little bit, the instructions. We see verse 9, the armed men going before, the rear guard coming behind, the priest, so forth and so on. Verse 10, Joshua commanded the people, saying, hey, got to be quiet. Nothing shall proceed out of your mouth until I say shout, and then you shout. Okay? So he had the ark of the Lord to circle the city, going around at once, then came to camp, lodged there. Okay? Again, they couldn't talk. You say, well, Brother Mick, you said they probably were talking and everything. Well, it didn't happen when they were marching around, but when they got back to the camp at night, and you're sitting around the campfires, and you're having your supper, you're eating from the provisions of the land, right? No more manna, right? Right? No more manna. Why? Because now you're enjoying the reality of the promise, right? You're enjoying the produce of the land, and we're sitting around, and well, what you think about today? I don't know. That's what you think about today when we're walking around that. I don't know. Hey, what was your idea? Wonder what the conversations were like. Then the second night, third night, fourth night. I don't know. You got that right. And it can change very quickly, can't it? And we're going to see that happen here in the next little while. Because as long as they're obedient, but once sin breaks into their ranks, judgment oftentimes comes quickly. And we're going to see that happen. Don't want to get ahead of myself. Okay, a couple more minutes. Let me just quickly wrap this up, and then we'll pick back up with it next time. And Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord. Then the 7 priests, bearing 7 trumpets of ram's horn before the ark of the Lord, went on continually and blew the trumpets. But the armed men went before them, but the rear guard came after them. The priests continued blowing the trumpets. Second day they did the same. But it came to pass, verse 15, and I'll stop here. But it came to pass on the 7th day that they rose early, about the dawning of the day. So what time is that? Basically, what time? Yeah, sunrise, dawning of the day. Okay. And marched around the city. But this time, what took them 20 minutes to 30 minutes, it's going to take them a little longer, right? So if you do the math on that, it's going to take them a little while. So, again, 7 times around. On the second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time. And remember, they got to be quiet, right? I bet that was hard for some of them. Don't you think? And then on that 7th time, they marched around the city 7 times. And we know what happened at that moment in time. They're told that when they hear something, they're to do what? I wish Baptists would catch on to this. They'd have had trouble with Baptists if it had just been Baptists that day. Why? Because they were given instructions to what? Shout. Shout. Yeah, I wonder how they shouted. I wonder if they shouted or if they shouted. I'm going to say they shouted. And that was part of the instructions. Shout. They shout? Okay. All right, folks. Hey, we appreciate everyone that joined us tonight, watching us by Facebook. It's always a blessing and a privilege to have you with us. Hey, again, if you're looking for somewhere to worship this coming Easter Sunday morning, we'd love to have you. If you don't have a church home, come join us. We're going to have a celebration time this coming Sunday, 11 o'clock for worship. Come join us for Sunday school at 10 o'clock.